Welcome back to Murder Therapy with Doll Talk.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
So you've had a whole week to decompress after listening to Jeff. He in his disgustingness. He's already killed somebody and nailed an animal carcass to a tree, but all is fine. And I think we had left off that he had enrolled in college. Um,
The Ohio State.
yes, he had enrolled in the Ohio State.
We don't
But
want him.
before that, nobody wants him. Not even outer space wants him. No other galaxy is
No.
like, no, we don't want that. We don't want to be affiliated with that. But leave it to the United States to, have something like that. We would have that here, but whatever. Um, so Ashley is dealing with what she calls Ohio allergies.
I am.
Yeah, so she's got some drainage going on, and she was like, I feel so bad because everyone's gonna have to listen to me like going, and I was like,
It's just me
I
clearing my
promise you,
throat. The
they would
allergies are
rather
so
listen.
bad. It's because the weather, it's like off and on rainy. And like I went to bed, I told Jody I went to bed completely fine last night and just woke up and it was wreaking havoc. And it's just a drip. So I feel like I have to constantly clear my throat. I'm so sorry, guys.
Well, they would much rather listen to your allergies than they would to the sounds that Jeff's neighbors had to listen to. So if they had to
Ooh,
choose,
good.
yeah, I think I would pick your allergies.
Fair
Just
enough.
throwing that.
I'd pick my allergies too, but our Ohio
While
listeners know my
you're
pain.
while you're dealing with Ohio allergies, um, so I can't even say I wasn't thinking about sunblock. I legit just wasn't thinking today, and I did not put sunblock on. And my legs are so red, and that's why I have out this long sleeve like flannel on because I'm freezing right now, and my legs are cold, but they're stinging at the same time. And I'm not looking forward to when the sun goes down
Mm-mm.
because I'm going to be in so much misery. And of course, mom today was like, why didn't you put sunblock on? And I'm like, I don't know, because I wasn't thinking. So we're sitting there watching Colin's ball game, and I was trying to cover up parts of my body, and she goes, oh, your skin. God love my mom. And she's like covering up my shoulder, and she's like, we go to the beach on Saturday, and you're going to have to cover up. And I'm like, I have a week. I think I'm going to be all right. Like, I'm going to take a bath in some vinegar later. It'll all be
She doesn't
fine.
think you're gonna get sun at the beach.
Well, no, I do. I don't know if you knew this. Like, I've always been the oddball. Like, my skin is super sensitive,
Same.
and I legit got. It's because we're Scottish, Ashley. That's why. Um, the sun doesn't shine in Scotland. I don't
Our
like.
grandfather was Scottish. Yes. No, we are
Yes, my
paler than
grandfather.
pale. He
We
is a
are.
redhead. Pass it on. I have a redhead, and they are like the palest.
Hmm.
It's bad. We're just all pale. It's We'll
We are.
blind you
We
looking
are.
at our whole family. We will not take family photos. It'll just blind the camera.
I know that some people are probably like, well, I've been in Jody's live streams and she looks tan. Well, that's because I fake and bake. I legit, Nathan calls it painting my body.
Show me your secrets because
He's-
I've went tanning before and I still cannot get tan. It's so funny.
well, I buy this product. It's literally called Tan AF. Right. Like Tan AF, tan as fuck. And you get this little mitten and you literally just rub it out all over and it's
Oh.
instant. And that's what I like about it because you can see if it's streaked. Like, don't get me wrong, I like Jergens too, but if you do the Jergens lotion, you can't really tell. You know what I mean? It's not
Mm-hmm.
instant, so then you can streak. And I use that because
Does
I
it?
can't tan in a tanning bed.
Oh, really?
Well, it's because I burn. We're Scottish, remember?
Fair. Fair
I
point.
got sunburnt one time. My skin is so sensitive. I was in a car. I wasn't even outside and we were going all the way to Florida and I got sunburnt in the damn car on the way to Florida. That's how sensitive. So yeah, if you could just see my legs right now, like I can feel the heat. I've got my hands on my thighs right now and I
She had
can feel
two
the heat
games, you
coming out of
guys,
the
and she was
blanket.
out there. That's probably 2, 3 hours. And she didn't have
Back to back.
sunscreen on.
I did. I didn't. And it's not because I didn't have it. Like that's not even worse. part is I brought sunscreen and I didn't put it on.
You're
And my
terrible.
mom and dad was like, "Why?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't know why I didn't. I because I make bad choices. That's why."
I
Like
see. We're
I
both
make
going to
bad
places where,
choices.
like, so I'm going to Vegas and Jody is going to Myrtle Beach. So I mean, we're gonna be
I
in
can't wait.
the sun.
So my good friend Steph, who is one of my moderators on TikTok, she has actually become like one of my BFFs. We talk on a regular basis. She lives in Myrtle Beach. Unfortunately, she's not going to be there the week that I'm there because they're going to
Oh,
Disney. I know. I
oh,
was like,
fun,
you slut. But anywho,
fun.
I hope she has a grand time. I really do. Aside from that, she was telling me, she was like, so when you're here, you need to steer clear of Highway 501. And I'm like, why? And she said, well, within a week, just 1 week, an airplane had landed just midway on that road. Yes, an airplane. And they had a goat running down that highway last night. Yeah. And I was like,
Meh.
noted. I know. What if it would have been a fainting goat? That's what one of um
Oh.
shout out to Barkley real quick. She knows who she is. She's an active follower of mine that's in almost all my live streams. Very rarely she's not in any of my live streams, but she was like, "What if it would have been a fainting goat?" And I'm like, "Hmm, that would be so disturbing." Poor little fella, but yeah.
Poor fella. I
Poor
love.
little fella. But as much as I would love to be talking about fainting goats,
Would
we
you?
are not. We're going to be talking about how Jeff made people faint unwillingly.
Permanently.
He permanently made people faint. Yes. So again, disclaimer: this may not be the case for you if necrophilia bothers you, dismemberment,
Mm-hmm.
scientific unwilling experiments on the living, pedophilia is in this episode, rape. There's a lot. So I understand if Jeff isn't your favorite topic to talk about, and if that bothers you.
I feel like
Even
last
if it
one
is
was
your,
light, so just know this one we're jumping
this
in.
one's going to get a lot worse. I
Yeah.
know. As much as it was a heavy one, oh, I might need therapy after we get done with this one. I might need to like email my therapist and be like, "Hey, you got time to squeeze me in this evening?" Like, I
Or
need.
I might become a patient at my job.
I might be my next patient. Yeah, there we go. All right. So we had left off where Jeff had, killed somebody. Lionel came in and discovered he had been all by himself at this point. And he had no idea that Jeff's mother had just kind of was like, well, you can fend for yourself, but me and David are going to go. Um,
Like one of those, you're
and he's
18
got
now,
himself,
bye.
yes, it was. But, 18, I look back to when I was 18, I was an idiot. I had no idea. Mom, you're getting it on the record right now. You were right and I was wrong.
This is
Do you
recorded.
want to tell aunts? Yeah, this is recorded.
No, I
I
was
had
perfect.
no
I was an
earthly
angel.
idea. Aunt Sue, you were right and she was wrong. But
You were right,
yeah,
Mom. I love
18,
you.
we don't know what we're doing. And he was left all on his lonesome, which, whatever. So Lionel's like, let's get you in college. Let's get you taking some classes. And Jeff does, but he flunks his first semester because he's a chronic alcoholic and all he's doing is drinking. He's not going to class. Fun fact, his grade point average, do you know what that was when
Ooh,
he got kicked out of college?
a 0.
A point a point 4.
Oh,
A point
wow.
4. 0.4. So I think he tried a
That's
little. Like
what?
he should he showed up on a day that gave him credit, and I think that's the only thing he ever did.
He showed up to
But yeah,
class and sneezed and got a credit for his sneeze. That's
he
that's
did.
what
He
that
was
was.
like, "Sir, we don't know you. Oh yeah, you're that kid that's not been here all year long. That's you. Okay,
They
carry
were
on
taking
then. We'll
attendance.
give you
They say
credit."
Dahmer, and he says here, and they were like shocked, blown away.
Yeah. So obviously, Jeff did try to hide the fact that he was flunking
Yeah.
college. He was trying to hide that from his dad because he knew his dad was going to be pissed because look at the amount of money that his dad just paid for him to go to school, and it was all a waste because he wasn't going.
And me being close, like Ohio State is an hour away. Ryan actually does shows at a venue on like just outside the campus, and such a cool campus. Period. But it's expensive. So his like I'm
Is
telling,
it?
it's expensive.
I feel stupid asking this, so forgive me because I Virginia Tech is like 45 minutes away from me, and that's a big school.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's that's a really big
Oh yeah.
school. Is Ohio State a very large school?
Yeah, yeah. The campus is huge. Like, I mean, obviously we're known for our football, um,
Yeah.
but it's a great school. It's huge. The campus, the off campus, yeah. You should see just the football field alone. It looks like an old. I don't want to say medieval, but kind of medieval castle. It's weird.
Right.
Yeah, it's awesome. But
No, I
it's
got
on the
you.
same. I bet you expense wise, it's probably on the same level as Virginia Tech, because I feel like Virginia Tech's very
Tech is
big.
expensive.
Yeah.
Tech is expensive. It's very well, college in today's time
Oh,
period is
yeah.
expensive. But I think it was even expensive then. But the amount of money that Lionel just kind of flushed down the toilet because Jeff had no desire to, do anything. And of course, Lionel's pissed. He had every right to be pissed. I
Yeah.
would have been pissed if that was my kid. And here I spent thousands of dollars for you to go to school,
How did
and
he
you
get
ended
in
up with a
there?
point 4.
Because
He was
obviously
accepted.
he fucked off in high school.
He did, but I mean, he graduated. He did get a high school diploma.
Fair. I just didn't think he did that well enough to get into. I mean, you think
Well,
he'd end up at a
part of me
community
kind of wonders.
college?
Well, part of me kind of wonders. You got to think. Lionel, obviously, he has his PhD. He's a chemist.
You think he pulled some
He's making
strings?
good money. I think he might have pulled some strings. I
Okay.
do. I don't know how true that is. This is, I mean, I don't think that there's any documentation of such. This is just me and Ashley cutting shit and kind of putting our thoughts out there.
Don't come for
But
us. These are not facts.
yeah, don't come at me. That's not a fact. I'm just saying it's
Maybe
possible,
he did some
but
work for the university. I mean, being a
he
chemist.
could
Yeah,
have. He could
maybe.
have. But I also kind of think with given like if you go back and look at the high school years and what how much of an asshole Jeff was in school, the teachers were probably aggravated and was like, I don't want to deal with him
Pass
anymore.
him.
Like I just want him to go. Like pass him on. And that happens. That still happens. Some of my classmates probably should have never got their high school diploma. I'm
We
sorry,
just
and they
need him
did
out of
because
our
teachers
class.
just we want him gone. Exactly. Then that could have been it. I mean, there's so many different scenarios with that, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. So at this point, Lionel's like, you are going to do something with yourself. You have got to do something. You're not going to be a fucking scrub on my couch. Your ass is going into the fucking army. So Jeff enrolls in the United States Army, gets through boot camp, which I've really wondered how did he manage that? Especially he's been drinking every day since he was 14.
Somebody being
So,
up in his face at boot camp. I just can't picture it.
well, he had such a flat effect that it probably didn't phase him.
Probably not.
I
You're
think at
right.
this point, I I feel like again, this isn't factual. This is just us having an open discussion and putting thoughts out there. But I feel like given the fact we know now when he was in a closed setting with whoever his choice of a victim was, he would lose his temper, obviously, as we
Mm-hmm.
know. And I think given the fact that he's in a room full of people, he was able to maintain it. You know
It's
what I
weird how
mean?
much control he had over his temper. Because if you see him, he seems so mild mannered, and he didn't look like he got irritated or affected a lot by things. He was so just
He Well, a sociopath, a true clinically diagnosed sociopath,
laid
which, by
down.
the way, don't really use that term anymore. It's kind of an outdated term, but now formal. It's we what we refer to antisocial personality disorder. And I wish that they would put these personality disorders on a spectrum, and I say that because
Mm-hmm.
not one antisocial is like another antisocial. Do I think that they have the potential to kill like Jeffrey Dahmer did? Absolutely. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. But they all lack a conscience, meaning they don't have any empathy or sympathy towards anyone at all. They have no sense of accountability. They don't um they think that they are above the law, which again, which we'll dive into my thoughts as far as, mental health wise, what I think that Jeff had, because he had a lot more than antisocial personality going on.
Okay.
And I'll explain more as to why I think that. He technically, if I'm not mistaken, was actually diagnosed as somebody with borderline personality disorder, but again, I'll
Mm.
explain later on. But he they're master manipulators too. That's the
Yeah.
thing. They have a really, they're very charming. Look at Ted Bundy. He
Oh,
was
fair. Yeah.
he is the face of antisocial. No one who in a million years would have thought that that man was killing women like what he
I
was and
don't know
having sex
because there's
with their
certain
dead bodies.
situations where you could pull him out of character. Like it happened in
You
courts
can't.
and stuff. But I don't feel like that happened with Dahmer. He just was so shy, so quiet, so he just always had himself in a corner no matter where he was. Like later when we see him trolling, I felt like he just kind of stayed off to himself and people came to, I don't know. Uh,
He
which,
did.
yeah. And he never came out
I
of
think
character in public.
I think that part of his, as weird as this sounds, and you can tell me if it doesn't make sense. To me, it makes sense, but I think part of his charm, that charming characteristic I'm talking about, is the fact that he was so quiet and so
And cute, like the, yeah.
and reserved. He wasn't a bad looking guy for that time.
No.
I mean, he really wasn't. He was attractive. Um, he he's not, he's a lot different than our typical, serial killers like John Wayne Gacy and Ted Bundy,
Yeah.
and he is a whole, he's just a situation. Like that's
A,
no
a
really
whole
true word
thing.
to really.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just Jeff. Like I
He,
don't,
he's Jeff.
he's Jeff. He is what he is. So he's in the military. He's got through boot camp. He ends up getting stationed over in Germany, which is kind of interesting given the fact that we just learned last week that Joyce was, that her family was actually German descent. But yeah, there you go. Food for thought.
No,
Isn't it
I don't like
strange?
being connected to him so much.
I
The
know that's right.
Ohio
I forgot Aunt
thing.
Sue's from Germany.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Anywho,
no.
I know.
Is there some what? Oh no. I think I just cracked my family code. Anywho. No, we're not in any way, shape, or form related to Jeffrey Dahmer. We're
Nowhere
just going to
near.
throw that
Thank
out there. No.
God.
And if we was, we wouldn't claim it. But anywho, I think we need to invest in our family tree thing. I think we need to do that. We're going to,
No,
I'll
mom's
go
already
in
done
half and
it.
half
You
with you.
partner with her.
Okay, so we're
Yeah.
good. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay, deal.
Dahmer
So,
was not on the
we,
list.
good. Thank God. All right. Anywho, so while he's in his, like, I guess, I don't know if it was in boot camp or when he was in Germany, but what did Dahmer train to be? A medic. Think about that. And this is where he learns about medicines,
Mm-hmm.
pain medicines,
Yep.
sleepy time medicines. He learns about that,
Dosages and
which is
how much is safe, how much is not. Oh,
mm,
yeah. He learns it all.
he learned. Yes, he learns a lot. Now, there has been men that have come forward over the last few years that have actually talked about their time in the military with Jeff.
Really?
Um, oh, you didn't know that? Oh, so
No.
you're about to learn. Yeah, so some people didn't know this. I actually didn't know this until I share my office with a lady named Dana. Dana is the sweetest person ever, and God love her. She's 70. She doesn't look 70 though. I hope I look as good as Dana does when I'm 70. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Get it,
But
Dana?
Dana is so, like, I don't want to say she's quiet like we talk, but obviously like my interests are a lot different than Dana's interest in like flowers and things, right? I'm all the time I know. So she'll be talking to me and she'll be like, well, what did you do this weekend? And I'm like, well, I watched this new serial killer documentary and I'm educating her about all these murders. And she's like, huh, okay. And then she just, I know, God love her. But anywho, so I'm all the time educating Dana about some true crime thing. And I think I've kind of got her interested in things because she started watching. So, yeah, and she'll tell me about shows. I'm like, hell yeah, Dana, I'm going to check that out. Yeah, but she is the one that educated me about this piece. So
Okay.
shout out Dana.
All
And I watched
right.
this. Yes, there's an
Dana's
interview
gonna school me
and you
on some
can watch
info.
it. Dana, Dana's awesome. Dana is incredible. So Dana asked me one morning at work, she's like, hey, you're into that Dahmer guy. And I was like, yes. And I'm like, yes. What about Dahmer? And she goes, have you watched the new series that's on the Fox TV thing? I don't know. You can get the streaming Fox thing. I said, no. And she said that this guy who was Jeff's roommate in the military talked about him drugging him and raping him on several occasions and talked about
Damn.
instances he would wake up and his pants just they weren't on anymore and just he there was one instance that this is when he finally kind of escaped. He ended up waking up and there's Dahmer sitting on the bed drinking a beer just staring at him and he ended up jumping out the window to get away from him and it caused him to break his I think his leg. You should watch it. It's really interesting.
Hmm.
But and this is just came out in recent time. Um and I think during that time frame it was very hard for men to talk about
Oh,
sexual assault. It's still hard
it's
for men to talk
still,
about.
yeah, anybody, not just men,
Well,
anybody.
yeah, it is. As a survivor of sexual trauma, it is very difficult. I'm very open about my story now, but it took me many, many, many years to get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a fun topic to talk about. It's and it you I can't really I don't know how to put it into words of how hard it is to come forward about that because even though in the back of your mind you know it's not your fault, you still feel a form of guilt. You know what I mean?
And you
Like
feel
you
dirty.
still
Yeah, you feel like you did
you
something
do.
wrong.
And it's embarrassing. That was my thing. I felt so embarrassed. That was me. But now this guy did try to tell people in the army, and no one did anything. And
Mm,
you look at that
sad.
now and you're like, don't you feel like such an asshole that you didn't do a fucking thing for that guy when he came forward and was telling you this? You ignored it.
Mm.
And I don't know if they ignored it because again, and we're gonna learn that more with him. He's just that he got away with so much because nobody wanted to conquer that. And I truly look at it as they looked at it as just homosexuals and that's it.
That's a
And you
big
know what I
problem in the
mean?
military, and it's so funny because that you mention it because I've talked to Jody about doing a case on a girl that I personally knew, and she was in the military, and that was a whole situation, and they didn't do anything about it, and that's a big thing. Where it's just like you just don't talk about it. Continue on with your jobs. You're here to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's sad.
Well, in certain communities, like people, it's like what they just brush it under the rug. But I really look at again because there was lots of phone calls made with the bizarre behaviors and the things that people were hearing, and the police ignored it and they did nothing. And I truly 100% look at it as they looked at it as well it's the gay community. And I don't mean that in an ugly way. And I don't want people to think that
Yeah,
I feel any type of way. Listen, I'm all about the LGBTQ community. I will never, ever disagree with their lifestyles. If that makes you happy, I'm happy for you. But in that time frame, I really look at it as they just didn't care because they looked at it as like gay activity.
yeah. No, yeah.
I
I
really
wouldn't
do.
think about but you are right for that time. For that time, yes, you are 100% right.
Yeah. Well, he ends up getting kicked out of the military. Well,
No.
because yeah, he ends up getting discharged because he's a chronic alcoholic and he's just worthless to them. Yeah.
Didn't they
So the
end up with like
military,
medicines coming up missing? as well?
I believe they did.
Okay.
And that's probably what he was using to drug his roommate
Mm-hmm.
and do what he was doing to his roommate. But he ended up, so he gets kicked out of the military, and they let him pick anywhere he wanted to be flown to. He could pick anywhere. They were like, "Where do you want to go?" He doesn't want to go back to Ohio because he knows his dad's going to be fucking furious, livid,
Mm-hmm.
as Lionel should be, because his son is doing nothing to do well. So he decides he wants to go to Florida, Miami, Florida. And you would think, as unfortunately, this isn't where our story ends. He doesn't go to Florida and get his shit together and, go on his merry way. He doesn't set up some like tourist attraction in Miami. He, of course, he ended up getting a job there. He was an alcoholic though, and was spending all his money on his, feeding his alcoholism. So he gets evicted. So he has no choice but to call his dad. So his
Yep.
dad ends up having to come to his rescue. Um, which do you think, had Lionel not went to the rescue every single time that Jeff got into the situations like that, do you think that things would be different? I mean, he's already killed somebody, but
So no, I no, I feel like it would have been worse, honestly.
you think so?
Yeah, because
I
then
kind of,
he would go back to those feelings because he might fall into stress, depression, and that was what made him feel good.
yeah, you're
But
true.
would
You're
he have a
you're
place
right.
to do it? Oh, see, I don't know. I'm on the fence. I don't know.
It's just it's kind of like you kind of can't help but look at Lionel as an enabler to some of his behaviors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he's constantly bailing him out of every situation that he's getting himself in.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, granted, I think that so much has already happened that, don't forget, he's already killed somebody
Yeah.
that no one knows about at all. Okay, so that's already happened.
Is
He
that boy?
already has
Is that
that
boy still
dark.
under the house? I think he's.
I think
I think he
he well
is.
he wasn't under the house, but he was, yeah,
Or
he's
in
on the
this.
property.
Yeah,
So
he is still there. Yeah.
he's,
All. Yeah.
yeah,
Everything he did. Nobody knows. Still
and,
there.
and nobody knows. So at this point, so it's, by the way, because we've went kind of far ahead, it's 1981 at this point when Dahmer was
The
discharged out
80s.
of, yeah, we're in the 80s.
Big
This is when
hair,
he
bright
got kicked out of
colors.
big hair. It was 1978 when he graduated, and that was he had, remember, he killed Stephen Hicks right after he had graduated. It was
Yeah.
like within weeks. So what? We're 1, 2, 3 years have gone by since he killed his first victim, and Jeff does talk about after that he did have those dark thoughts going on. Well, and these weird fantasies and just all the things,
Which
because
obviously his
he
dad was trying to
knows.
keep him busy.
Yes, he was. So I think that he stayed with Lionel and his new wife, Jeff's stepmother, for a
Mm-hmm.
period of time. But October 7th of 1981, he was arrested for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. He paid a small fine. He was intoxicated. I don't know what the disorderly conduct consisted of, but don't worry, we get worse. He never can. Don't worry, it's not just little petty shit where he's pissing people off and cussing at people or
He's not
whatever.
just drunk in public.
He's not just drunk in public. That's right. So August 7th of 1982, he's arrested again for disorderly conduct. But this time he dropped his pants in public. Yeah, he did. Um, at this point, okay, so let me backtrack. During that time he was living with the grandmother. So I think the disorderly conduct thing and the
Mm.
fines, like, Lionel was like, I have had it with your fucking ass. You are gonna go live with your grandmother. So he ships him off to go live with grandma.
Grandma
Where
welcomes him with open arms.
she does. And the thing is, Jeff talks about his relationship with his grandmother. He loved her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and if you want my honest to God opinion, I think that he loved his dad. I think that he loved his mom too. even though she really kind of screwed Jeff over, he loved her. But I think that he had a love for his grandmother that was just far more than his parents. But she also really nurtured Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she loved him. I mean, and even after everything that happened, she still loved him.
Cared for him the way his mom didn't. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And maybe that's why. Maybe he had that motherly daughter. God, for, yeah, motherly son, bond with his grandmother. But
Mm-hmm.
he loved his grandmother,
He
and
did.
she loved him, even with all the fucked up shit that he was doing. She didn't know that any of this was going on in her house. Um, which is like poor Granny. Like,
Oh.
I know. Could you imagine if one of our cousins would have been a serial killer doing this in Granny Sue's house?
No. Well, I thought you were
Like,
gonna say like one of us with our grandparents, and I was like, oh god,
well, I can't say one of us because we would have never done anything
we
like
would
that.
have
Not that I think
never.
that any of my cousins would do any of that, but I'm just, yeah, I'm just saying, like,
Which cousin? Call
my,
him out by name.
I'm just, well, I
No,
don't think any of them are serial killers, but
none of
anywho,
them are serious.
I'm just thinking,
We
I'm
love you
just
all.
yes, and God rest my Granny Sue and my Papa Anderson's like souls.
Yeah,
But they were so listen. The Anderson clan was known for their temper,
oh, it's so bad.
just plain and simple. Yeah, it was really bad, and I can I can hear my Granny Sue like having a fucking fit if she would felt any of this would have happened in their house. Like,
I'm literally
ugh.
well, like then it goes down the generation. I'm like trying to picture your nana or my Oma. Oh
Oh,
god.
your Oma would have I don't know.
She's
Out of
full
any of
blown
those, I
German.
think I
She
would
has
have
got
been.
a dirty mouth. It would be entertaining her discovering this. And then Jody's Nana is just the sweetest thing, but
She was
she
the sweetest.
her figuring that out, she'd be like, "What the hell?"
What the hell is wrong with you? I can. Yeah.
Or
Not again.
our kids with our
Oh
parents.
yeah.
Your
Yes.
mom would be
Oh,
so
listen.
entertaining.
What in the hell are you doing down there in the middle of the night? And what's that god awful smell? Like, you need to clean it up. I can hear my mother now. Listen, not that I would have ever done that, nor do I have any desires to do any of that, nor does Ashley, just for the
No,
record. I'm
but we
just
already know
saying,
because
like,
it's like God love Jody's mom is all over the place, always cleaning, always into everything. So I don't
oh my
feel
gosh,
like
yes.
they could get away with it. But I love you so much on Kimberly. You're just so oblivious to things
If
sometimes.
this tells you anything, if this tells you anything about my mother, listen, my mom, you could eat off my mother's floors.
Yeah,
I'm not exaggerating whatsoever. My mom is like the cleanest woman in the entire world.
you're like
But
getting a plate of food and she's like literally right behind you, like as you're walking an inch, she's like an inch behind you, wiping down the cabinets.
she is. I love it. But my mom, even one of her favorite things about baseball is when they sweep the plate. If that tells you anything. Like, she's like, look at this. She's like, there they go, sweeping the plate.
That's so
Listen, my
satisfying.
mom's great. It is. She loves watching them
I
sweep
love
the
it.
plate. And I'm like, that's your inner cleaning lady.
But her
So,
house
no,
is
no
always
one could ever,
beautiful. That's the
yeah,
positive.
so no one could be a serial killer in my
No,
mom's
she would
house.
know. She would know.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless a dead
She would
body
be
could fit in your
so upset.
pocket.
She would be so upset that if someone was in her basement doing the things that Jeff did. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Anywho.
we're jumping ahead of the game. But so he's living with his grandmother. Obviously, these dark fantasies have not gone anywhere. Remember that. But he had enough capacity to understand what he did was not okay. And this is where my empathy kind of goes for him. He tried to find things to suffice the darkness. That's what's so weird is he's like, killing people's wrong. even though I really like doing it, it's wrong. I'm going to steal a mannequin from a department store because it won't move. And he can
There's
do
no
whatever it is.
sympathy. He knew there's therapy. He knows you could go talk to, like, see a doctor.
But here I go again. Like this was me. This was you last week with me
Mm,
when we were talking about Carl, and you were. Well, I say last week because we're recording, but the
I
week
was.
before, I should
We
say.
swapped bodies, and
But
I.
she was like, "Yeah, we have," and she was like, "Well, this and this." And I'm like, "No," and here I am. I'm like, "Well, Jeff did try to hide the darkness.
Yep.
He
We swapped
he
back.
tried to get a mannequin. Yeah, no." She's like, "No, there is no empathy with him."
Yeah.
But I mean, look. My thing is, if the mannequin would have brought him composure, even though it's really weird, and it would have saved lives, let the man have his mannequin.
Let
He
the
ain't
man.
hurt
Okay.
nobody.
I agree
Like,
there. I agree there.
let the
Have the
man have
man.
his mannequin.
Have the mannequin.
Have the mannequin. It
That'd be
doesn't
great if
move.
it stopped at the mannequin.
Well, I think, and again, this is kind of where we backtrack to the first episode. Jeff already showed signs that he was very intrigued at listening to the heartbeat. And I think that that was part of the whole mannequin thing. It, which the grandmother ended up finding the mannequin anyway, and she's like, "What in God's name are you doing with
Mm-hmm.
that? And why is that in the house?" And she got rid of it, and he was pissed that she got
Furious.
rid of it. He was fucking livid. He's like, "Where's my mannequin?" And like,
Like, you guys, this relationship with the mannequin was weird.
oh, he would cuddle it,
Every
all
night.
the things,
Oh, like,
every night,
I was like,
all the
no.
time. But I don't. I think it would have sufficed long enough until he realized it doesn't have a heartbeat. He loved to hear a human heart, which is really disturbing on so many levels. But
Yeah.
yeah, um, so he had a mannequin. Grandma has threw the mannequin away because she's like, yeah, no, that's not staying here. At this point, we're only at one. We're still body count. We're at one. Okay. All right. September 8th, 1986. Jeffrey was arrested when he deliberately exposed himself while urinating in front of a group of children. He is such a situation. Like, I
Gross.
don't.
And the
Well,
thing
and
is, he's not a. I mean, it just depends. Oh, never mind. I was going to say he's not into minors, but
no,
spoiler
he is.
alert, some of his victims were. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, some
Younger
of yeah.
children. He wasn't into young minors.
It doesn't make it all right.
It doesn't.
It doesn't matter how you go about it. Pedophilia is pedophilia, plain and
100%.
simple.
But yeah, just whipping out and peeing in front of a bunch of kids. Like, come on.
Well, other stories say that he was masturbating in front
Oh,
of the
oh,
children.
see. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
That's
He
disgusting.
his story was
All
I
is
was just
disgusting.
peeing. I was just pissing.
You
I
couldn't
don't know what the
go.
problem is.
I mean, you couldn't go elsewhere?
He was drunk. He was
Oh,
drunk.
fair.
He was, but
But
that's the thing.
still.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You deliberately put yourself in that state of mind, knowing that you're consuming whatever substance it is that you did, so that you can't excuse your behavior when
Yeah.
you willingly did that. He knew what he was doing. He probably was masturbating in front of these kids, and they're like
That's disgusting. I'm
sicko.
just saying, because,
But
like, I mean, who hasn't had a toddler just at a park just pull it out and pee? But, I mean, a toddler versus a grown man is totally different because they know better.
yeah,
But in
well,
peeing outside, period, is like, but if you have to, go elsewhere, go behind a building. Oh, like, if you have a car, open your car door and get in the car. Like, it's so easy for guys. It is so
well,
easy.
he wasn't pissing. He was totally
You think
beating
he
his
was?
meat.
You think he
Yes,
was?
I do. Well, given everything else that he's done, and what kills me is spoiler alert when he gets caught because he does. But when he
Yeah.
finally gets caught for all his shenanigans, he sang like a canary, and he was like, "Well, yeah, it started when where did I go?
Mm,
Am I still there because I'm
nope.
green?
You're green.
Oh shit.
Oh,
Okay, I total okay." Sorry, I hit a button. But anywho, he's
Hold
like
on, we
telling.
gotta go back because now we're gonna have to cut that out. So
Do we have to?
you gonna you want to keep
We
it,
can
Green?
keep it. I don't care. We can keep it. It's fine. Anywho, when he gets caught and he's like, I killed this one, this one, this one, and this one. He does. I mean, he literally is like, well, I did this to them, and I wanted to figure out what this would do. I don't know that he ever openly admitted to masturbating in front of the children.
He
You know what I
wouldn't.
mean?
He
Like
wouldn't.
which I'm like, you're willing to admit that you drilled a hole in that man's brain while he was alive, mind you, but you won't
Oh,
admit.
when it's all done. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's
I
weird.
don't know that he ever like met
All the
he
things
admit,
you did,
excuse
and
me,
that's what you're gonna say you didn't.
all the things that you have done, but you're not going to acknowledge that.
I mean, it makes you kind of wonder, like, was it true? Because I mean, he's saying like a canary about everything else.
That's true. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe not that pedophilia needs, and obviously sexual assault of any nature I take very serious. I'm a huge activist for anti-sexual violence.
Facts.
But at this point, with what he did, is arrested for later on in time, that probably was water under the bridge in their eye. But I mean, and he went to,
Microscopic
yeah,
compared to what he's. Yeah.
yeah, compared to everything else. But he'd already went to court and stuff. But it just kind of makes you wonder, like, because he had lots of interviews with the news, um, many journalists. Why you wouldn't talk about all these other red flags? It just,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of makes you wonder.
Yeah.
I'm just, yeah. All right. During this time, though, that he had got arrested, he also was frequently visiting gay bars. I think that the gay community had kind of started thriving a little bit more. I don't think that people was as accepting as what they are now still, but gay bars was the happening thing. And with the gay bars, they also had the bathhouses. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh
Like where
yeah.
people would go for their hookups after the case. And Jeff was very active in those. He ended up getting banned because he had developed quite the reputation for drugging people. At this point, he was not drugging and killing, but he was drugging them and sexually assaulting them because that's what it is, regardless of the fact that they went there willingly.
That was his go-to
Drugged them.
method for
That
a
was his
while.
go to.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because he wanted someone who was not active, not moving, and he wanted them to be 100% submissive.
And he knew that you
Plain and
got a key
simple.
to a room. It was private, and he could
Mm-hmm.
you had this room for so long, so it was his, like, it was almost like his nightly ritual. He would go to that gay bar, he'd pick somebody up, they'd go to the bathhouse, he did his thing, um, and then he would leave until he was caught and kicked out.
Now, and the whole reason he was caught, he almost did kill one. Not because he strangled them, because he overdosed them
Mm-hmm.
and they found them and they were hospitalized. And that's what got him caught for
Yep.
that. So when he goes to, check into the bathhouse, they're like, you can't come here. You do shady shit. Out. Like, go. So he ended up getting kicked out.
Yep.
We are on September the 15th of 1987.
Where is he at?
9 years. We are at this point. Where are we? Hold on.
Because
I'm pretty
grandma
certain we're.
lived, he's back in where he's born, right?
He's back. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We're back in Wisconsin at this point. I'm glad you're, because it's a little. There's just so much.
He
So
moved around a
he's just
lot.
all over
Yeah.
the place. He did move around a lot. Well, and that was partially his fault because he can't get his life fucking together. Like,
Yeah. You just didn't mention, you mentioned grandma's house, and grandma is back where he was born. So
yeah.
Wisconsin. Okay.
He's back in Wisconsin at this point. All right. So September 15th, 1987. 9 years have passed since Jeff has killed somebody. So he was able to maintain some control for quite some time. We talked about that earlier, like how he was able to So that's why I feel like he had a lot more capacity than what some people want to give him credit for. You know what I mean? And I think that he did have some control, but eventually it kind of he lost that control.
Yeah.
So he meets Stephen Toomey, who was 24. They had went to a hotel room together. They'd met in a gay bar. They'd went to a hotel. It wasn't the bathhouse because Jeff got kicked out of there. He can't go there anymore. And Jeff's recollection of this is that he woke up and he was dead. That he was just black and blue all over, and he blacked out and he has no recollection of any of that. So he's got this dead body in the hotel. He's like, well, fuck. I got to do something with this. So,
Can't
yeah,
just
no,
leave him
he's
here.
got to do something. I can't just leave him here because they've got my record on file. So he goes and buys a suitcase. He goes back to the hotel room. He crams this body in this suitcase and he takes it back to grandma's house.
Grandma. Poor grandma.
He take Yes, so we're getting graphic. He
Mm-hmm.
takes Yes, he takes Stephen. I just realized his first victim's name was Stephen and this one's
Yeah.
Stephen.
I did not even notice till you were like literally saying it.
I didn't even notice it until yeah, so he takes Steven down to the basement. Um, and this is where he dismembered Steven. He cut the flesh off the, bones. He wanted to save the skull. Yeah, he wanted to save the skull. Um,
There was a scientist in there, just
which
not a good scientist.
not a good. No, this was a bad
A
scientist.
mad scientist.
He was yes, he's Jeff is the one who came he started the whole mad scientist thing. He wanted to keep the skull. And he did end up boiling that skull in bleach,
Mm-hmm.
but it made it so soft and brittle that it didn't hold up like the way that he wanted it to.
Yeah.
So he ended up just crushing it
He did some
as
weird
what he
things.
that's
Yeah, weird things with
yeah. He did weird things, yes.
in grandma's
All
basement.
right. In grandma's basement. Yes. He's a whole situation. Yeah. All right. So 1988. We're in 1988. That happened September 15th of 1987. So now we're January 1988. Fast forwarding a little bit more. James Dox Tater is his next one. He offered him money to pose for nude photos. He took him back to his grandmother's home after sex because they were intimate willingly. I'm assuming. Dahmer drugged and strangled him. And at this point, this is when his pattern, because again, he really wants to keep skulls. That's his thing. He wants to keep that skull, and he would go through the whole pattern of I'm going to dismember them, I'm going to cut the flesh off the bones, and then I'm going to boil the skull. So
He is a creature of habit. He did
he
not
is.
like when his routine got broken by something because then he'd have to figure out a
Oh
new
no, he
one. But then
didn't.
he settled into a new pattern and he stuck to it. So grandma's house, gay bar, meeting people, even the stories he gives them to get them back. That was his routine for a while.
Oh, he had a very solid routine.
Mm-hmm.
But any mechanisms he would try, because he would, though, that's one thing he would change up because he wants to keep the skull. He has this
The
fantasy of
science part was
creating
the only
kind
thing
of
that changed.
this. Yeah, he's like, well, that didn't work out, so I'm going to use this chemical, and nothing would work, and it would piss him off because he really wanted to keep the skull. He was
Mm-hmm.
very fixated on keeping that. Um, March 24th of 1988. Richard Guerrero, who was 25, he had come back to Dahmer's house, grandmother's house. He's still in grandma's house at this point. For nude photos. Of course, again, after sex, well, of course, he not strangled him, excuse me, he drugged him. He had sex with him. Let's not call it sex. I'm sorry. He raped him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't consent to that. It was rape. It is what it is. Um he strangled him. and he did his routine. And it's just like what Ashley said. He's a creature of habit. These things didn't change. The very fucked up experiments happen a little bit later on, but at this point, it's like drug, rape, strangle, dismember. I'm going to try to keep the skull because he's very fixated on that.
That, and he had
Now,
a lot of anxiety from what I've like from what I've gathered. He would panic about situation, like he would get so worried about being caught, which I mean, some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them just don't care. Um, but he would over panic when he felt like
he
something,
would.
yeah, was going
He
wrong.
would. Well, at this point, there's been situations that grandma's getting pissed because there's weird, nasty smells
Yeah.
coming out of the basement
Oh.
because he wasn't. I don't know that it was. Well, let's call it as it is. He was keeping some of the
Yeah, he
remains.
was
There was
not
a point that
removing them.
he didn't like to do that, which again we'll touch a little bit more later on. But
What were the
she's pissed.
drugs? Is he still using drugs that he learned about in the military, or was he using something else?
I think he was using something else at
Okay.
this point. I don't know what he was using. The scary part is I think I don't know if he was able to access some of the chemicals that he used, like to try because he was putting bones in acid and stuff to dissolve like evidence.
Mm-hmm.
He had a weird thing, like a whole weird laboratory going on downstairs. But the he was able to get away with some of this so much because his grandmother, I don't know if it was because of her age, she couldn't get down the steps to the basement or she
Mm.
was just afraid to go down there or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
but she started complaining about the smell. And he's not doing anything about it, and he's like there's a dead raccoon under the house or something like that had happened, and she's like that's not a dead raccoon, like that what I don't know what you're doing down there. So she did call Lionel, and Lionel came to the house to address it,
Mm-hmm.
and he's livid, and he's like I don't know what you're doing down there, but you're going to take me down there. And there was a I guess there was a closet of some kind in the basement, and Lionel wanted him to open it, which tells me there was human remains in there. And he was able to convince Lionel, "Can't I have a little bit of privacy? Why, that's my taxidermy. I'll get it cleaned up." And they left it as is. There were so many times that he almost got caught.
Yeah.
So many times that he almost got caught, and he didn't.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if I had mentioned while he was at the grandmother's house on one of my live streams one night we were talking about Dahmer because people ask me all the time. They know that he's the person that I like to study and um, that I probably have studied the most. But one of my followers as a child actually lived in the house. She grew up in the house right beside his grandmother when he lived there.
What?
Hmm.
Wow.
And I was like,
Creepy.
so I need to know, did you ever see anybody go in that didn't come out? And she never seen that, but she did talk about his odd eccentric behavior and how he just was very strange. But
Hmm.
she's like, I never would have thought in a million years that I was living beside a serial killer.
Oh, yeah. They
I mean, and I
literally
don't
look
think
like normal
anybody,
people.
yeah. I mean, he wasn't really normal, but he just, again, Jeff is a situation. That's that's the
Jeff.
best that we can say. Now, we're going to go a little bit more forward. Scrolling on. Jeff did end up getting in trouble again for sexual assault of a minor. When he went to court, his dad did write a letter to the judge talking about the fact that my son is an alcoholic. My son needs help. He's been kicked out of the military. I've sent him to college. He didn't do well there. I don't know what else to do, but he pled for mercy,
Oh,
which is really heartbreaking given what we know now.
yeah.
And the judge ended up, I don't want to say that he took Jeff's side, but in a sense he did because he wasn't held accountable for any of
None of
that,
it.
really.
Yeah.
He did have to register as a sex offender, but he got no time. And he went to rehab, which done nothing for him. Absolutely nothing. And here Lionel's thinking, my son's going to get therapy and maybe we'll finally get some answers to whatever it is that's going on, because I think at this point he's recognizing my son's not mentally straight, and we're going to get back on track. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened. He went to rehab. It was unsuccessful. He ended up getting not kicked out. I don't want to say kicked out. When he gets discharged, I think that Lionel asked him, my lights just did you see that?
I
The
did.
lights just changed.
That
I love
happens
the
on
pair
my
of
end, not Jody's. That's so. And mine has not.
ever. They're like, I'm tired of this sick bastard. They're like, we're sick of Dot listening to Dahmer's shenanigans.
We're done.
He's disgusting. So at this point, he gets discharged from rehab. They go to grandma's house. He's told, obviously, he's going to have to find his own place to live. We can cut this part out real quick. When am I coming up on my time limit for an hour?
Yeah. You know it's so weird? The girls flickered the lights at 5 minutes. I pulled my ear
Oh,
thing
I
out,
love.
and
And they flickered the lights. How cool was that? All right.
it was weird. I was
So,
waiting to tell you
okay.
after.
So, yeah. No, yeah. How wild. So, you know what that means? This is going to end up being a four-parter. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
That's okay.
We'll have to make it. Yeah. All right. So, back on track. All right. So, he's going to find his own place to live. And as much as I thought that I was going to get all of his fuckery in, the second part, there's just too much. He's just too busy and too all over the place that we are going to have to call our part two right here. And then we will continue on into our Jeffrey Dahmer series. So this is now going to turn into a four-parter. Sorry,
Sorry,
guys.
guys.
Um, yeah, I know. They're like, oh, Jeff is so gross. Can't we please wrap it up in three? I might, but I have a funny feeling it's going to be a
We'll jump
four-parter.
in next one. We'll just jump right in.
Yeah, we're just going to jump right on into the next one.
Yeah.
So, all right, Ash, what do they need to do?
They need to like, follow, and subscribe on most social media platforms. You can find us on YouTube if you're into watching the stream. You can hear us on Spotify, so do your thing. We love your support. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Bye,
Bye.
everybody.